Welcome back to another episode of See You on the Other Side. I am your co-host Christine, and I am joined, of course, with my girl Leah. And then today we have Ben Corliss. Hello, Ben.
Hey guys.
Hi,
Hey, how are
Ben.
you? Thank you guys
So,
very much for having me.
yes, you are so welcome. So, we started talking to you on Instagram. You actually messaged
Yes.
us and told us that you listened to our podcast. And I was like, Leah, holy shit, this dude has like over 100,000 followers and he listens to our podcast and
Yeah.
thinks we're cool. Like, this is fucking
Oh,
awesome.
absolutely.
So can you,
Yeah, I was just, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
yeah,
I
no,
didn't
no,
mean to
go ahead and introduce yourself to everybody and what you do and
Well,
all
yeah, so
that.
I was just, I'd come across one of you guys' reels. I don't remember which one it was. And I was like, it was something with mushrooms. And I clicked on, gone to the page. I was like, oh, this is very cool. And seeing some of the stuff you guys have been doing. So, yeah, right away, I thought it was very cool. I think it's great that you're being so open with it and putting it out there. But mostly that you're very focused on the healing aspects and the important parts that go into it, not just the um, take psychedelics and have a good time type of thing. So that's a big thing that I focus on as well. So myself, I've been a personal trainer for about 20 years. I've been doing the online thing since November of last year, so we're coming up on almost a year now. And yeah, it's just blown up like crazy. But it was definitely a bit of a struggle for a year or more for me to get there. We were kind of talking about just a second ago. Um, but yeah, I had a hard time getting over the camera, so we can talk about that and what I did to get through that and all kinds of different things. But super stoked to be doing this.
So, we want to play around and do something a little bit different with you today. I gave you a little bit of a
All
heads
right.
up, but not exactly what we're doing. So, surprise. And I normally don't do this, but I've got a notebook
Okay.
because we have some simple, but not really simple questions, and we want to kind of build from there. So,
Okay.
in the conversations that we have had through Instagram, I know you dabble in psychedelics. Like, I feel like you're probably have more under your belt than we do. So it's sometimes
Not sure.
intimidating in that space, like knowing someone's done it more times, you know, like I'm like, oh, but we're on the same team.
Yeah.
So why does that matter?
Yeah.
Right.
But I want to ask you who you were before and who you are now.
Yeah. That's a great question. So backstory a little bit. What led to where I came into psychedelics, right? Is so I grew up. My dad was a doctor. My mom was a nurse. Very conservative family. So growing up, it was just drugs are bad, and the DARE program in school, and I heard all the horror stories of you take acid and imagine a dragon in your kitchen doing shit. And I heard another story of I think my mom told me, or the DARE person at school told me about somebody who was freaking out, thinking that there was bugs climbing on them, they're clawing off their skin. So that was my impression of psychedelics most of my life. I met my wife. We're both personal trainers. We met at 24 Hour Fitness, and we both worked there. And she ended up becoming my assistant manager. I was a fitness manager there, so I ran the training department. And she was my assistant manager. We became best friends for about a year before we started dating. And so
Aw.
during that time, she had done psychedelics before, so I knew that. I like, you're crazy. I don't know what you're doing with this stuff.
You're crazy.
And yeah, so we ended up getting together. We've been dating for a while, and then we were living here. We had a couple of roommates at the time, and we were hanging out one time, and somehow psychedelics came up in conversation, and everybody else there. So it was my wife, her best friend, and then that girl's boyfriend, who had all had experience before, and I didn't. And so they're talking about acid mushrooms, and it's not at all what I was told, right? So my arrogant, naive ass is sitting over here like, you guys don't know what you're talking about. And then fortunately, I had enough awareness at that time to recognize, okay, I'm the one person of this group that actually doesn't have experience here. And these three do. And what they're saying, it was so different than what I've been told. I'm like, are we talking about the same thing? And yeah, so I started to kind of wake up a little bit then to the fact that maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, you know? So then it was still a little bit longer before I started for the first time and found that. And then since then it has been, a transformation over coming up on 3 years now. It was the first time was the week between Christmas and New Year's of 2019 going into 2020. And then, so the first experience was 4 grams of mushrooms, and that was a good experience. We can get a little bit into.
So you dove right in.
And then, oh yeah. And
Same.
then the next time was when the pandemic hit. I had a friend that had come down and ended up staying with us for 6 weeks, and basically to use the gym while I was here. And she started to get a little bit annoyed with the attitudes of the two of us. She brings me a tab of acid, goes, here. Then that changed some things. So from there, moving forward, I had a few smaller experiences here and there over the course of the next few months. And then one of my friends had given her Be Here Now, the book, for her birthday, October 30th of 2020, that would have been. And so she was reading that book, and then they told us about Becoming Nobody, Ram Dass movie, Becoming Nobody. So we watched that, and now that at that point I'd had the one mushroom trip and then the one acid trip, and then I watched Becoming. Well, no, I guess I'd done a couple others, but anyhow, we'd watched Becoming Nobody. And have you guys seen that movie?
No.
What is it?
I have Be Here Now, but that I'm like,
yes, okay,
add it to the list.
Becoming Nobody is a documentary that Ram Dass did a few years back. I don't remember exactly when it was made, but basically breaks down the idea of losing yourself and the ideas that you've created over your conditioning through that time. But anyhow, the way the film starts is it kind of has its normal introduction, and then it opens to him sitting with the director of the movie. And when I'm getting goosebumps talking about it, because when that scene opened and I saw him sitting there just smiling in pure bliss, I had never seen anything like that in my life before. I looked at her, I was like, that's real. Like, this guy is like truly 100% happy. I've never seen that in my life. And that's what really kind of opened my mind to, okay, there's something more going on here. There's something more that's possible here. And then as we get into that movie, we can kind of talk about that, the idea of becoming nobody or losing your somebodyness was very, very interesting to me and very, very eye-opening, because there was a lot of, I remember my grandparents and my parents saying a lot of the things in that movie. He's going to be somebody someday and this and that. So it was a lot of me, throughout my years growing up, trying to be somebody, trying to create this, that, and the other thing, which we can go very, very, very deep into all of that stuff. But that was kind of the beginning where that led from, with the background with the family, and then not knowing what I was doing to coming up to now.
So before that documentary, when you had done psychedelics, was it more of a recreational thing, or was it there was like an intention and all of that kind of stuff?
I would say somewhere in between, if that makes sense. I mean, so when I think recreational, I think like, drop some acid and go to a rave, which sounds absolutely terrible to me, to be honest. Like, it's definitely not my scene. No judgment or anything, but that's a lot of people and a lot going on.
Yeah.
Plus that,
I've
never done anything like that. But it was like, it was, taking a little bit of acid or a little bit of mushrooms and just hanging out with our friends. So it was mostly my
like
wife,
a safe
and
space.
a good friend of mine, his wife, here in the garage, which is our gym. We'd be hanging out a lot. So there's a lot of good connection with, my wife and friends and everything like that, but not a focused intention, if that makes sense, because at that point I didn't know any better. I was just like, this is fun. This is cool.
Right.
And it definitely, opened my eyes to some perspectives. I was having a really good conversation with one of my friend's brothers just before I got on here about that. He's kind of newer to it as well. And that's why I said that the biggest thing that I've learned with this is how much I don't know about stuff. So that was a big one for me, was realizing that the amount of things that you actually know is like minuscule.
Yeah.
Because the most of the stuff that whether you learned it in school, whether you learned it from family, friends, whatever, even if it is true, right? I'm not saying it's all bullshit, right? Even if it is true, you haven't actually experienced that to know any better. You only know based on what somebody else told you.
Yeah. A lot of programming.
When you realize that you don't really know shit, right? It's more exciting. It opens you up to so much more of a full experience because you don't have any preconceived ideas, and it really helps you to live in the now and experience things as they're happening, not what used to be or what could be, what might happen, all of that. So it really, really helps with grounding and centering and being here now.
Would you say it made you more curious?
Oh, absolutely.
Ooh, yeah. That's a good question. Yeah, I mean, obviously, but that's because I feel like we don't talk about that.
That's a very good way to put it.
Enough.
Is you can definitely find a lot of answers, but the more answers you find, the more questions you find.
Yes, that's so true.
Yeah, it's questions that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that becomes a perspective, because that's one of the things that can be scary. You know what I'm saying? That's where when people talk about a bad trip, I personally don't I mean, I just have to be honest, I don't believe in it. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe
we talk about that a lot too.
Some people don't want to hear it that way, but it's the truth. You know what I'm saying? The only thing that makes it bad is your perspective. Mm-hmm. And honestly, the bad trips are the best ones, because the only thing that's bad is the resistance to whatever's happening, So that's the biggest thing, is you just allow for any experience and you'll have a good time. And, that perspective is what's allowed me to go on some deeper journeys several times.
Well, it's the resistance to knowing something you weren't ready to know, maybe.
Yeah.
Or when they're showing you your shit and you're like, hold up,
I'm not ready to see that yet.
That's what it comes down to. Is the bottom line is accountability. Yeah. And the thing the thing with me is I've been fascinated with the mind forever. I remember when I was probably 10-ish years old, my dad had got a set of Tony Robbins CDs back when there were CDs.
Oh, wow.
And it was a Personal Power 2 was what it was called. And it was a set of, I think, 25 or so, 26 CDs. You listen to it 5 days a week for a month, and then had a break on the weekend. And my dad listened to it, and my mom maybe listened to one or two. But I listened to this CD set over and over and over again for years growing up. I burned copies of certain ones, and I listened to them over, and they eventually got lost somewhere at some point in moving. But I did find them again on YouTube, so I've gone through the whole series again just for fun more recently, that was really fun to go through that again all these years later, particularly after the journey I've been through with this, not just with the psychedelics, but everything that's come here and the work that's gone in from doing that. So that was real crazy.
I was going to say,
stuff that
the message hits a little different.
No, then as a child,
right?
You know what I'm saying? As a teenager.
Wow.
So now I was like, whoa. So
I've even recently picked up books that I read pre-psychedelics and started reading them again, because I'm like, this is a whole new book. I have a completely different perspective, a completely different outlook on what this book is talking about now.
Yeah.
I wish I had done this sooner. I mean, I don't. I think timing is everything, and I think the universe put it in my path when I was ready for it.
Oh, 100%.
But
100%.
it's so interesting to think like that had such a profound effect on you at such a young age, and at an age where like you really don't think that deep. I mean,
no, exactly.
And now it's like, whoa.
Yeah, for me, I think that was like instrumental in my entire life. You know what I'm saying? Because like I haven't fit the mold very well, if that's not obvious.
What mold?
Particularly with my family.
Ah.
Yeah, I was always the kind of the black sheep and just wouldn't go with it. Everybody was very, follow the order, go to school, go to college, get a job, have a family type of thing. And I've just always done my own thing, I grew up, I played hockey since I was like 8 years old. That's what kind of what started. And then I ended up playing some pretty high level stuff. Ended up being scouted by a minor league team when I was 16. But they told me I needed to be bigger to play at that level or I'd get killed, basically. I was 135 pounds. Wow. As a 16-year-old. So that's what got me into the gym in the first place. And so once I got into the gym, my dad, he'd taken me to the gym a few times here and there before that, but I wasn't really into it. But it wasn't until I had that goal of playing pro hockey, and that was the thing, because that was always my goal. We'll get deeper into my childhood backstory a little bit more, but I wanted out, I wanted out of the house. I wanted out of the town. I wanted out of school. I just wanted out. Yeah. So playing pro hockey was, in my mind, my ticket out, so to speak. So that's what I got into doing that. And then at the, time 16, when all that was happening, I started getting to the gym and my body started responding very quickly, which I really liked because one, it made me feel better. As a young child, I got bullied a lot in school. Got picked on a lot, bullied a lot. I was always into superheroes. So when I started going to the gym, it was for performance, for hockey. But when my body started changing, I started having chest and arms and abs. I was like, so you're telling me that I can just go here, do this, eat this, and I can look like that? I was like, I'm in.
I'm in.
Like that's a deal. Absolutely. So that's what got me into lifting. I started having more fun doing that. My friends that I played hockey with at the time were getting into drinking and smoking weed, which I thought was bad then. And so I didn't want to get in trouble, still trying to be the good kid with
Dare.
Dad.
The Dare winner.
Yeah, exactly. So I cut all my friends, quit hockey, all of that, and just started pursuing bodybuilding. And from there, I wanted to be a trainer, just to be involved, have that for my job, and had no clue what I was doing whatsoever. So like my idea of marketing was to get some business cards with my name on it and put them on the desk and hope people called me. So
oh, wow.
So it was a bit of a struggle. And so I did like side jobs for years trying to make it. And then, eventually considered quitting. And then I had to finally sit back and I was like, what did I do to become a good trader? I studied everything I could and applied it. And I knew other people weren't better than me, so to speak. I mean, I didn't think I was the best, but I knew that I was good at what I was doing. I just didn't know why I wasn't getting business. And I realized I knew nothing about business, marketing, any of that. So I started learning that, started applying it, and that absolutely transformed that career. And then that's a whole nother thing, living in the bodybuilding world and identities and lots of ego in several different senses of the word. But so, that was definitely an interesting time, and which, eventually led me to my now wife and this experience. So it's very interesting to see the whole picture of how things play out.
Yeah.
Well, and how consistency is a huge factor in so many areas of life. Like just whenever you feel like you're about to fail or something's not working out for you, like you either keep going or you stop. And if you're consistent and keep going, I mean, I feel like this is true for working out too. This is true for your clients.
Healing.
This is true for healing. This is true for life.
Oh, absolutely.
This is true for
Yeah,
growth.
it's a journey. It's a journey. It's not, and it's focused on the journey, whether it be the gym, whether it be a business, whether it be healing through psychedelics or not. Because that's the other thing I really like to, I don't want to say the word preach, but make clear to people is that I don't believe that you need psychedelics by any means. I think they're absolutely tremendous tools, but they need to be respected for what they are. Like, that's not going to give you the results. You can't just eat some mushrooms and your life's better.
I was just messaging somebody about that today, about how,
It's not easy.
They may show you what you need to do or need to change. Again, their mushrooms can be a huge like self-accountability thing. But at the end of the day, you have to do it. You have to integrate it. We talk so much about integration, and I think sometimes people think that like, all right, I just do this and then my life's good. It's like, no, like they show you your shit, but then you got to change the shit. Like,
yeah, and it comes in levels, and that's the one where you start feeling really good. You're like, yeah, I got this. I'm this, and then that's when you get slapped right the fuck down.
You get tested.
You get put back in your face. But yeah, so with that's back what I was saying with those tapes, those CDs growing up with Tony Robbins and all that. I've always been super into the mind and how that works, into psychology, and that's been a tremendous part to working with clients and training like that, because that's really the key. You know what I'm saying? Like, the way I put it to people is you can find a good exercise program in 5 minutes on the internet for free. You can find a good diet for 5 minutes in 5 minutes on the internet for free. Like, you don't need me to do that. Like, I could definitely help, and other people can definitely help, and there could definitely be better stuff than others. But for the average person that just wants to look better, or the person that just wants to be healthier, you can find all the information you need very, very easily, all for free. The problem is doing that, right? So that's where, I've always focused on the mind beforehand, and my experience with psychedelics has just made my tremendously better at that. And so the big thing that I like to get into with people is belief systems, because when we boil it down, that's the bottom line. That's it, and that's the big thing that psychedelics do is they help shatter those belief systems, for one. But the big one that I talk about with people is when people talk about, it's really hard to change. I'm like, no, it's not. It really is. That's a belief system, that's it. And getting back into that just leads me into a quote that I heard that kind of really changed my perspective on what I do and the way that I do it, to go from one-on-one personal training here in the gym to what I'm doing now online with my app. And I have people in, I think, 8 different countries now that are on my app all over the world. And so I've been able to help a whole lot more people in a totally different way. So that I'd heard, the quote that I heard was, when you consider how difficult it is to change yourself, you begin to understand how little chance you have at changing anybody else.
Ooh.
Wow.
Right?
Oh, shit.
Right? So with that's another thing that I've seen a lot with experience with psychedelics is people will take that, they'll have a tremendous transformative experience, and then the first thing they want to do is tell everybody else. We need to tell everybody, we need to help everybody.
Yeah.
And the way that I put it is that is the most virtuous way to avoid working on yourself, is to help other people. And that's what it comes down to, is people would rather, share the experience and tell other people what to do than focus on themselves. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And that's what led to the True Alpha brand that we have with the app, the clothes, the supplements. So just to get into that a little bit real quick, because that's kind of the basis for what all this is about. So if you guys know that I live with wolves. I have 2 wolf hybrids. That's kind of my thing. That's
we see them in your videos. Yes,
comes from So in that they're super cool, super cool, very, very fun, very different than a dog. A lot of people think that it's just a dog that has wolf in it. No, that's I used to work with a wolf rescue, and that's a big problem that happens is people will get these animals thinking that they're just getting a dog that looks like a wolf and has wolf DNA in it, not understanding that it's a fucking wild animal.
Yeah.
You know? And so they're like, my boy, he's still a baby. He's just a year old. He's huge, but he's a baby. And they're naturally terrified of people. So that's the thing. They get, I bet they're really good guard dogs. No, they're absolutely terrible because they're terrified. I was like, have you ever tried to approach a wild animal ever? No, they fucking run away because they're scared of you. So same thing with them. So people want to like, oh yeah, come here. Like, no, just leave him alone. Don't talk to him. Well, I'm really good with dogs. Well, he's not a dog. So listen, please. But so with that, right, we get into what an alpha is, right, with the wolf pack. And so that's my whole thing, is trying to change the societal definition of what an alpha is, because it's, in my opinion, trash. You know, the typical definition of an alpha or an alpha male is, you know, basically an asshole douchebag that has power over people, that wants to, you know, impose on everything else. And that's not what it's about. You know, when you look at nature, you know, I talk more specifically about the wolves, but if you look at any, you know, other animals in nature, the conflict is about that part of it, right? The rest is cooperation, is compassion. Right. So a wolf pack, there's two alphas. There's the male and there's the female, which are the parents. And then all the other wolves of the pack are their children. Like, it's just a family. That's it. You know? So while, yes, they will, you know, defend their territory, they don't have other packs just running in all day, every day, attacking them. You know, that's a very rare occasion that an alpha is going to have to actually have conflict. But most of the time, they're caretakers, they're providers. You know, they look after their kids. You know, that the male wolves are, you know, one animal that is just as involved with the caring of their children as the mothers are. And another thing that's very, very cool about the wolves is they're another one of the only species that has step parents. So if, you know, one of the adults passes away for whatever reason, they will find a new mate, and then that new mate will take on a parental role of the children as if they're their own. So it's really based in love and compassion. So that's the big thing that I'm trying to do with what I do and my brand and everything like that, is change that definition. That an alpha is a leader. You know, it's not a position of power. It's, you know, the power is in the pack. You don't have anything without your pack. You know, so it's about leading. It's about being confident in who you are and not trying to control and tell other people what to do. It's just living your life out loud and letting that be an example to other people. You know what I'm saying? Nobody wants to be told what to do. Nobody likes that ever. You know what I'm saying? Nobody likes a boss. Right. But what they like is they see someone who's doing this, that, the other thing, whatever it is. And they're like, I want to be like that. Yeah. And that's what it's about, is it's inspiring them and pulling out what's within them. Right.
Yeah.
I think it was Stan Lee that said, you know, a true superhero doesn't show someone their own powers. They show them they show the other person their powers. You know, they bring it out of those people. So that's what we're all about, you know? So like this is one of my shirts. I wore the psychedelic wolf today.
I like that.
Yeah. So if you can see.
So, with the third eye and everything.
Yeah. So I have a few Easter eggs in the clothing line that allude to the psychedelics. So I have a lot of my shirts that are just like the brand with the basic logo and the name. And they have like, so the idea that every one of my shirts has a inspirational or motivational message on the back. So the idea is people get the variety. I have like, I think 20 something different designs. I don't remember off the top of my head. But the idea is you have, different shirts to wear each day. You wear them wherever you go, and it's just a motivational or inspirational message on the back to the people you come across.
I literally was thinking of ordering a shirt.
The whole thing is about spreading positivity. So that's everything that I do is about spreading positivity, lifting other people up, inspiring them to be the best versions of themselves, things like that.
Do you watch Do you watch Game of Thrones?
I have. I watched the first season and like half the second season, and I watched the last episode of the last one.
I'm like, you're like a Stark, but like a psychedelic, like inspirational Stark. You have wolves, but like there's like a message with it, and you kill a lot less people. So
yes.
I have to be honest. Can I say something really quick?
Yeah.
So all the alpha stuff right away. Now I'm like looking at it it's a perspective thing, right? Like I'm like, it's crazy that this super duper alpha male wants to sit with us and talk with us and shoot the shit. And I'm like, our page is so like feminine and soft and pretty. And then we've got this alpha and I'm like,
but I love
it. But then I was thinking about this earlier today. I was like, yeah, but you know what? I have realized, your vibe attracts your tribe. The people that I connect with now, I can always I can feel like where they are, if that makes any sense. I'm like, oh, absolutely. They're healing. Oh, they're on this journey too. Oh, you're one of me. And I felt that with you and our conversations. Yeah. So as much as the alpha didn't intimidate me, I was confused. And now I'm like, oh, I get it now. Like, I love that.
Yeah, it's all about changing. That's where the name True Alpha comes from.
You just blew my mind.
The definition of the alpha or alpha male, alpha female, like the alpha female, for instance, the societal definition of an alpha female is basically a bitch. We're being real honest. And most females that call themselves the alpha female are not pleasant people. The same as most of the men that consider themselves alpha male are not so much pleasant people. So that's my thing is what I look like with the muscle, the tattoo, the beard, all that kind of stuff. It definitely presents a particular image, and so I feel like my personality and what I have to say and offer fuses very quickly with that. But that's where I want to be. That's why it's the true alpha. Is that this was what it's really about. And I mean, even when we get into something like even is something as terrible as war, right? War, as awful as that is, if we boil it down, is based in compassion, right? Because you have people that are willing to die for people they've never met.
Yeah.
And you know what I'm saying? So that's a tremendous love. It's a little misguided. I will say that. However, that's the truth. So that's what I'm trying to really spread that message is that love, compassion, cooperation is the basis of society. Darwin, he's quoted with survival of the fittest. And that's what's basically our society has been modeled after since the 1800s, which is really strange that we're in 2022 going to 2023 and we're operating on information from 1800s. Like that's not good. And what's crazy about it too is there's a show, Missing Links, that I was watching on Gaia. Do you guys know the streaming service Gaia?
I have Gaia, yeah. I watch it a lot.
That's all I watch. So for those that don't know, Gaia is like Netflix, but all personal growth stuff, spirituality, quantum physics, personal growth. There's yoga, tai chi, stuff like that in our Gaia.
There's all kinds of psychedelic stuff on there.
A lot of just like follow along stuff like that. But there's a lot of like informational stuff. So this particular thing I'm talking about, they get into that of Darwin, what he said about survival of the fittest, and that was again a small portion of the book. Most of the book, he's talking about cooperation and love and compassion. He even says in the book, I'm probably wrong about what I'm saying, but this is all that I know at this point. That's all I had available to him at the time. So that's the thing. That's why I was really excited about what you guys are doing is this psychedelic renaissance that seems to be happening and significantly picking up speed in just even the last couple of months is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Remember, you guys have posted or I saw somewhere else where Connecticut has not only decriminalized psilocybin, other everything else, but they're actually paying for treatment for people. Yeah. The state is paying for treatment for qualifying individuals, which is veterans, first
healthcare
responders,
workers,
and frontline healthcare workers that are treatment resistant to a number of things, which I think is good. I mean, that's a great starting point. But the fact that they're paying for it blew my mind, that it went from illegal to we'll pay for it in not a very long time. I mean, that's tremendous, but I was blown away that happened that quick. So that's, very, very exciting. We're on in Colorado here next month to decriminalize psilocybin, DMT, ibogaine, mescaline. I believe it's just those 4 for now.
Yeah.
I might be missing one.
But I do love that you're on here, especially because I'm sure you have been labeled or stereotyped a lot of your life because of what you look like. But then when we talk to you, there's so much more to you and so much more depth. And I think Leah and I were talking before we recorded about how a lot of men struggle to talk and struggle to communicate and struggle to do some of that inner work. And I think it's really needed. So we get a lot of messages from men on Instagram about how they listen to us and how much we help them. And I think we need to kind of continue with that. And having people like you on is so monumental to helping all of us heal.
I mean, absolutely. That's exactly what I want to be. Is I want to be that. I want to show people that it's okay, particularly the guys, And as far as talking about what I look like, we'll get real vulnerable real quick to some crazy stuff. So that I learned through psychedelics, it was wild. So getting back into, like I said, I was bullied a lot through my life. This and that. So I started with one tattoo. This is really quick. So the first tattoo was over here, which stood for the moment, or it said the moment, like live for the moment. Another way of saying be here now. Then I decided that was a bad idea, so I covered it with a big black void. However, it didn't work because you can still see where the moment is still raised and shows through the black void. So that's a whole unplanned thing that the universe is just kind of like, you know what? Here's
works.
That.
It works.
So, anyhow, I started, when I was 18, I got my first tattoo, and I got my second one, and then that went from there. And I made plenty of bullshit excuses. I really like art, and I've really been into this for my tattoos. No, the truth, that I knew I just wouldn't say it out loud. I wanted to look scary. I have all black and gray tattoos because I look like a fucking prison inmate, so nobody would fuck with me.
Wow.
I had a guy message me on Instagram today. He's like, have you ever done time? I was like, no. I bounty at one point. So I have arrested people. But I've never been arrested myself. So through all that, then I learned that what I see in the mirror every day is a trauma response. That's permanent. So I was like, well, fuck me.
I've heard that about body mods before. Like a lot of body mods, that is a type of cutting, like a control thing, like it's a trauma response. And, no shame, no hate. It's just,
we all have them.
There's something deep. It's always deeper than you think it is. Nothing is ever black and white or as it seems.
Yeah.
There are layers to.
Well, I think there's definitely people, and I meet people, and they'll ask me about my tattoos, and I said, there's always a story. I was like, no, there's not. I got this because some of mine have stories. I'm like, I have the Om and the seed of life on my face. So those are more meaningful than mandala over here. So those have been since all of this, and I definitely have more planned and everything. I don't regret any of it. I don't, have a problem with what I look like, but that was a very whoa moment to actually truly admit that to myself, because the thing was I've known it the whole time, no matter what reason I told people. No, the truth was I chose the things that I chose and the style that they are because I wanted to look scary. That was the truth. And then I've been very nice and feel like, oh, you're so much nicer than I thought.
Yeah.
Not surprising. You know what I mean? But so that's the thing is, that was one where I had to go, whoa, wow, what did I do? But since I'm like, well, here I am. This is what I am. This is what I look like. That's not going to change unless I spend a lot of money on papers. I don't really feel like doing. to be honest.
You just got to own it now.
That is, yeah. Well, and it's become more meaningful because that allows for this truth to come out. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
So
Wow.
those are the kinds of things I really like to share, and that's the kind of thing that I can share in, a conversation like this that's very difficult to put into a 1-minute social media video.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So let me ask you this.
Struggle I had.
So let me ask you this. So, you've talked about, doing psychedelics with your wife and close friends. Mm-hmm. Have you done a psychedelic journey that was solo, where it was more introspective?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've done both. I mean, it's a little different with my wife because we're literally together 24/7. We work together, live together. We've always done everything together. So, she went to visit her dad with my daughter over the summer. I had to stay because of the wolves. They can't just be left with anybody.
I'm sure.
Yeah, so we don't have anybody really that can watch them. So yeah, I took that opportunity to do my own by myself and stuff. A group I used to be a part of called the Bearded Villains. We had a trip to Four Corners, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. Every summer, the September 11th weekend. So of that group, there was the smaller group of us, the psychonauts, that were the psychedelic group. So we've done some bigger trips together out there, and that when I was gone, that would give my wife the opportunity to do her own individual introspective trips and stuff like that. So we've had those opportunities to kind of do our own thing. Been a lot of times where the two of us will, do a trip together, and she goes to bed way earlier than I. Even with the psychedelics, I'm going to be up for a bit. So there's been many, many, many nights of those where we've started it together, and then I've had several hours of contemplation and facing things on my own, and yeah, that's been instrumental in this. And it's really, for me, it's just being open to that, it's the perspective that we're kind of talking about towards the beginning of just not being afraid of whatever comes up, not turning away from whatever comes up. And that's the thing that I really believe with people, whether it be with psychedelics or not. I honestly believe that most people, they know what they need to do. Mm-hmm. They just don't want to admit it. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's very, very few situations in my life where I just did the wrong thing because I didn't know any better.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, if I'm being real honest with myself, I'm like, this is probably not a good idea. But instead of like admitting that, we're just like, you know what? I'm just going to focus on this over here instead and then do the thing. Like, oh, I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So that's really what it comes down to, I think, is being accountable to yourself.
Yeah.
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 And then getting into the part of changing in the belief systems we're talking about, where we were talking about how hard it is to change yourself. I also say that that's bullshit when we be honest. It is a belief system, because what is actually involved in making changes to yourself? All you have to do is think. That's literally it. You don't have to move. You can sit on the couch. You can lay in your bed. You can have a blanket. You can have whatever you want. You don't have to move. You don't have to do anything. You have to go anywhere. You literally only have to think, be okay with those thoughts, and then make different choices based on those thoughts. That's it. It doesn't take time. It doesn't take work. It doesn't take effort. Anything else, any methods that you try to use, it's all just some bullshit to distract from the simple fact that it's just changing your mind. That's it. You know what I'm saying? So you can go through the rigmarole of this, that, and the other thing and all this and make a big deal out of it. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, after you've done all that, now you got to think a different thought and make a different decision.
Yeah.
So you can go through all that shit if you want to, or you can just skip that and just get to the end and make the different decision. You know what I mean?
Well, it's like the people who, I don't want to say the people who, I know it's a very typical thought pattern of, they say, if you don't like your life, change it, but how can you change your life? It's up here.
It's just a thought. It's literally
that's
a thought.
it. Like just transmuting.
Yeah, this particular shirt on the back, it says, you create your thoughts create your intentions create your reality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Like, that's literally it. And the thing is, as human beings, we have this innate need to accomplish things, to overcome. So most people's problems, they create themselves because they need something to overcome. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
There's, and that's where, you get into trauma. Is it trauma, or is it something that happened 200 years ago, would have just been life, and now you label it as trauma and you fucked your life up for 13 years. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because of a label you put on a thing that happened. I'm not trying to discount anything that's happened to anybody by any means. You know what I'm saying? Bad things absolutely happen to people. Bad things happen to me. Worse things have happened to a lot of other people. I'm not saying that I've had an easy life, or I'm not saying I've had this whole difficult life that I've done really well. No, it's like bad things happen, but it's what you do with that, right? That's part of the be here now aspect of it, is not getting stuck in the past and be here now. What's here now? What do we do here forward?
Or like taking those situations as lessons. And
yes,
I get what you're saying, because we've both gone through a lot of traumatic childhood stuff, and I see it very different now. And in the beginning, I was like, it sucks that I had to go through this, and it sucks that I have to do the work. And then where I am now in my journey is, I'm happy that it propelled me to push forward, to keep going. And I know that, like, when you're in it, you don't see it that way,
and it doesn't feel that way.
It's hard to hear that. So I know it's not something you should say to someone while they're in it, but it really does feel a lot different when you're on the other side of it, and you can look back and say, those were lessons, and I am happy that I was able to learn through that experience. Right. I'm not happy it happened. It. Yeah. But it had to.
But
it led you here.
It happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is what it is. And that's a phrase that I had a client that really hated. Her husband used to tell her that all the time. I hate when he says that. I'm like, well, he's not wrong.
Right.
It
is what it is.
But yeah, it's that comes down to attachment. I'm saying? People get attached to this. They get attached to their traumas, and a big thing that I've seen. So I saw it the most in my world with weight loss. But then since then, I've seen it a number of different ways. But you'll have someone who's overweight. I had one lady in particular, like 15 years ago, something like that was over 500 pounds when we started. And she started losing weight. And then she started to have severe anxiety because when we talked through it, and at that time I was not nearly as prepared for that kind of thing as I am now. But we did okay. We talked through it. And what it boiled down to is she got picked on a lot for her weight as a kid. And it was very hurtful. And so what she learned was that if she would make fun of herself first, then people would laugh and then they wouldn't pick on her. So basically like Eminem, on 8 Mile. So what happened then is she became, in her mind, the fat, funny girl, right? So when she started to lose the weight, she was not fat anymore. And that's the reason. So the reason that she was funny is because she was fat. And if she wasn't fat, she wouldn't be funny. And the reason people liked her because she was funny. So if she loses that, then nobody's going to like her. That's the kind of thing that happens, And that's what happens is people become attached to their trauma becomes their identity. You know what I'm saying is, I was the person that was cheated on. I'm the fat person. I'm the person that was bullied in my case. You know what I'm saying? If you stay attached to that, that's where you get into that cycle, because you start to heal it and then you start to lose your identity, and then you don't know what to do. You freak out, you self-sabotage, you go back into all of that, right? So that's where when you've experienced an ego death through a deeper psychedelic trip and you lose that identity and still exist, now you've actually experienced the other side, right? You've experienced who you really are outside all of the things that you think that you are. And then you come back and all that stuff becomes really easy to let go then.
Yeah.
If you allow it to, or you can dive deeper into your traumas again. You know, it all comes down to perspective and accountability.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting how we've said this before in an episode, but I feel like every time I do some type of psychedelic, I feel closer to home. Like I feel closer to myself. Like all the attachments like start to fall away. And that lasts for quite a while. But what I have found is it's been a year since my last big journey. I've done lots of little ones, but you know the difference. So
Yes.
I am starting to feel myself spiral again. I am starting to feel myself attach again. And I was going to ask you, this was one of my questions, like, how do you know when it's time to do another journey? That's for me, when I start to feel attached to stories, attached to trauma, attached to this idea again, I'm like, okay, I need to go find myself again. I need to come back home. That's how I know to do another trip. How do you know for you personally?
So, the most honest answer I can give is now it's intuition. I just feel it and I know. But in that I've become very in tuned with my intuition. So to back up to the beginning, right? For someone who's beginning and doesn't have that connection yet. In the beginning, I would just plan. You know, it'd be like a weekend where I had the time to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like true story, whether good or bad, or it's just the truth. There wasn't any real specific plan for me in the beginning. And I think that's just it, is just start whenever you feel like it, when you feel comfortable, when you feel ready. That's it. There's no other way for me to explain it other than you will know.
Yeah.
And that's it. And if you don't know, then it's not time. You know, if you feel ready, then you are. And if you don't,
then you're not.
There's your answer. You know, I don't know if I feel ready. Well, then you're probably not.
Well, and I think with all of these,
okay.
With these psychedelics, like you each time, again, with the right intention and all of that, you do get closer to home and you do get closer to yourself. And you're so much more in tune with yourself. So you are able to tell when things are starting to become off because you're closer to yourself each time
than you were ever before.
Yeah, and when you get further away from that, you're able to recognize that before I think it gets bad.
Yeah.
Where before psychedelics, I would just go into it, go into depression, go into a panic attack, go in and not know where it stemmed from. Where now I'm like, I can sense that it's coming on. And so what do I need to do to
ground yourself?
Well, and, and I think, every person's experience is different.
Sure.
Every person's journey is different. And, truth be told, I've done a lot of trips. I've done quite a few big ones. I've done a lot of small ones. And I've done, fairly frequently as well.
Yeah.
And, some people will say, you only do it this often and you need to do this and do that and respect this and that. Like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like that's where I don't like the spiritual egos that get involved,
or
just
talking
the spiritual
about
gatekeeping, or when people have their experience, they think that everybody else should have their experience.
That experience.
No, I'm just like, that's why, like, my whole thing is I don't tell anybody what to do. I just share my experience,
Yeah.
And Ram Dass has put it best, when he does several of his talks I've heard where he says, just take what's good. If I say something and it makes sense to you, then take it. If it's bullshit, then let it go.
Yeah.
And he would always tell people, stay as long as you need. When you feel like you've got enough, then leave.
Yeah.
And
with this podcast, we constantly stress we are not experts. We are not telling you to do psychedelics. You are your own human being and you should do your own research and you should do what's comfortable for you.
Absolutely.
We just wanted to share our story and kind of, share our story authentically and, how we overcame certain things and the obstacles we face and what we did to help heal. And you take with it what you will.
Yeah, and that's what really really drew me to you guys when I came across your page and everything was specifically that is that attitude, that perspective very much shows through in the content that you do. So that was really cool, in my opinion, because that's what it's about. Is it's just about sharing experiences.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like I don't like the word guide. You know, when people talk about
We've
Yeah.
talked
I want
about
to be a
that.
journey guide. I'm like, they're like guide to me implies the wrong impression. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Again, people use whatever word they want, you know,
Right.
and different words are going to have different meanings to different people.
Mhm.
That's another big
True.
thing to understand. So to me, the idea of a guide means someone that's going to like tell you what to do
Right.
and where to go and this and that. And I don't believe that. Like I love the quote from Socrates that I can't teach anybody anything. I can only make them think. So my thing is always questions, right? Whether it be with my clients or people, whatever the case may be. I don't like to tell people do this, do that, whatever. Like I can have an idea of what's going on,
Right.
and then it's about asking them the right questions to bring that out from inside. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Because if I just tell you something, you go, "Oh yeah, that's pretty good." You might think that's good, but that doesn't mean you're going to do it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But if I ask you the right question that makes you realize something from inside, now it's your idea, and that's going to stick a lot harder than if I told you. You know what I mean? So for me, that's come from doing a lot of self-reflection because I can't know what to ask somebody unless I've been there myself before. You know what I'm saying? And so that's come from a lot of, you know, introspective work, whether it be with psychedelics or not. You know, most of the work honestly is without.
Yeah.
And it comes
Yeah.
to really the biggest first step for anybody to do, whether they have used psychedelics or not, whether they want to or not, is just becoming aware of your thoughts. And for me, I started analyzing every single thought that went through my head. And I would start to tell people this in the beginning, like, yeah, man, I just start thinking about everything I think. And they're like, you can't do that. Like, you can't overthink everything. I'm like, that's not overthinking.
No.
When you're, that's just thinking. It's not, if you're just analyzing your thoughts, that is only thinking. It's not overthinking. Overthinking would be when you start getting into, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Where you're getting ahead of the now, right? Staying in the now where something happens and you have a thought, you go, where did that come from? Why did I think that? And then you start to analyze, you start to see what your patterns are. You start to realize what your triggers are before they get pulled, so to speak.
You're exactly right.
So once you start doing all those things, you become a lot more self-aware. But when you start to understand your own thought patterns, you start to see how common those thought patterns are with so many other people. You start to recognize them in other people. And rather than like, you know, pointing out, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that. I know what's going on. So, because I've done it myself, I've been there, I've made those mistakes. So I just ask the things that I know to ask and allow that to come up from the inside. You know, so one of the big things I do helping people, you know, break behavior patterns and things like that is it all comes down to attaching more pain to the belief than there is to changing. You know, and that's literally what it comes down to. One of my old clients, he was a behavior psychologist, and he said that people won't change until their life becomes more painful than the effort it takes to change. And that's it, you know. And so a big one is most people, their problem is impulse control. That's it. They just can't control their actions. They want a cookie, they eat a cookie. You know what I'm saying? They don't want to clean their house, so they sit on the couch. You know what I'm saying? They just can't forego the temporary satisfaction for a later gratification. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You did something in a
you're
reel.
Just reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're just reacting to your life. So that's why I break it down. I was like, so if you can't, well, I just can't control myself. Well, then who can? Like, who's running your life then? You know what I'm saying? And so when you start to you ask the right questions, like, well, who is control? Who if you can't control your thoughts, who is? Because you're having thoughts, somebody's controlling them, and it's not you, then who is it? And it makes them go, oh, I don't know. Like, and it all of a sudden it becomes more painful to be that person that doesn't know what's going on than to actually face their thoughts and embrace them. But when there are thoughts that aren't pretty or aren't fun, you don't like that. So I call turning away. You know what I'm saying? You have that thought of, I should get up and do the dishes, or I should start working out, or I shouldn't eat this food. But then you don't like that, so you get that little rebellious child behavior, and you distract yourself. You pull out your phone, or you smoke a cigarette, or you take a drink, or you turn on Netflix. Whatever your vice is, people dive into that. So it's about just being accountable to yourself and not being judgmental over it. That's the thing, is people have this whole idea that being accountable is bad, and they just don't like it. It's just neutral. Just you don't have to. If you have bad thoughts, doesn't mean to be bad. They're just thoughts. Just look at where they're coming from and don't worry about it.
Yeah. You did a reel. I want to bring this up because it kind of blew my mind the way that you described this, or maybe it was you talked to me. I don't remember. I feel like it was real. Said somebody wanted ice cream. That was their thing. They like to have ice cream. And so instead of taking it away from her in her diet plan and her meal plan, you added it in to her macros.
Yep.
And so it was like, now you have to eat this thing.
Yeah. Tuesday and Thursday, she had to eat a pint of ice cream.
Like, it's not impulsive anymore. It's part of the plan.
Yeah, you have to. So it does two things. One, it takes the impulse out, like you said, because now it's a have to thing. But at the very least as well, it's teaching discipline.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're eating this, and this, and this. That you're following a plan, even if it's with food that you like. And what happens is, and we would make the rest of the diet make sense. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't like eat a pint of ice cream on Tuesday and Thursday, eat pizza for breakfast on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and have a whole cake for lunch on Saturday. You know what I'm saying? The rest of the plan made sense. And then we put, the food that was hard to stay away from. Okay, cool. If you can't resist it, then we're just going to make you smoke the whole pack, so to speak, Yeah. And it ruins it. You know what I'm saying? Because you don't get, because the thing is, like, the satisfaction is the reward. It's the dopamine.
Yeah.
Right? It's the, I want, I receive. I want, I get. So when you have to do something, you don't get that dopamine. You know what I'm saying? So that breaks that whole cycle.
I know.
So,
shit.
Yeah, you posted that. I was like, oh, shit. I never thought of it that way, but it really is. It's that satisfaction. It's that impulse. It's that hit,
Yeah.
Interesting.
Well, and again, that is just a method, right?
Yeah.
So you can go through the method if you want. And like what I was talking about at the beginning, that, like I said, that's a method, right? You can just cut through it and be like, you know what? I don't need to have that, and it'll be okay. You know what I'm saying? What happens is you want, and then you get stuck on the attachment of wanting. I can't have, and I can't have. And now you get in this emotional circle. If you just let it go and sit, it passes like any other thought does. And you go, oh, I'm fine now. It's really not that hard. And people will freak out and argue with me very much on that. But it is hard. I'm like, dude, I promise you it's not. Like, you're making it hard because you believe that it's hard. And that's the biggest thing, is it all comes down to belief systems. Like, that's the bottom line to everything. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like that needs to be the theme of the show.
I agree.
The belief system.
Yes, I think so.
So what I was going to ask you is, with our listeners, we always ask this, or we just started asking this, with psychedelics, what is your biggest takeaway with psychedelics that you could share with listeners?
I think it would be the beliefs, right?
That's kind of what I figured.
Because they shatter what you know, right? Because until psychedelics, let's back up. There's Men in Black, right? This totally seems like it's out of left field. But on Men in Black, he's sitting on the bench with him. And he goes, whatever many years ago, people knew the earth was flat. And 5 minutes ago, you knew people are alone we're alone on this planet. Imagine what you'll know tomorrow.
Ooh.
Right? So that's a big thing is, one that gets me all the time is you see a rainbow in the sky and it's really cool. It's pretty. And I always say, how many people do you think know that that's just what it looks like everywhere at all times? You can just only see it in that one little space because there's water droplets in that one little area, and the light's reflecting in a certain way. You can see these colors in a stripe in that one part of the sky. But realistically, all of those wavelengths of light plus more that our eyes can't even see because we don't have the
always there.
Whatever, I don't remember what it's called. I'm not a biologist. In our eyes to see that, right? There's so much more to our world that we can't even perceive.
Right.
Have you seen the film Have a Good Trip on Netflix?
Yes. Oh, of course.
Deepak Chopra gets into it there, where he talks about the way a butterfly perceives the world is completely different from us. The way a chameleon perceives the world is completely different. So those are very different realities. So that's the thing is reality are subjective. My reality, what I know to be real in my world, can be completely different from you. Yeah. And that's what creates so much conflict in our world today. That's where there's so much division. There's so much fighting, is because people have this idea that's based on all evidence that they've lived. These people have a completely different idea of what's going on. Both are true to them. And you try to put that together and make it black and white across the board for everybody. There's too much going on in the universe for that to even be possible.
Yeah.
So that's the big thing is understanding that there's a whole lot more going on than we understand. So when you begin to realize how little you know, it opens you up to a lot more stuff. So that's been I think the biggest takeaway for me is learning how much I really don't know and shattering those belief systems. So I'd heard a quote another time. Somebody asked, how do you identify your limiting beliefs? And the answer was, what do you know is true? Because we question everything except the things that we truly believe, which we don't think to question. Right? So that's where you really want to start learning some shit. Start looking at the things that you know for a fact to be true. And some of them may be, I'm not saying that everything you know is a lie, right, and it's all completely backwards and everything like that. But that's the thing, is that the things that people just know, this is the truth, this is the way it is, they don't even think to question it. More likely than not, that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
Because all the little stuff that you know better, well, then you're just being stupid because you know better, you're not doing it. So that doesn't make any sense. That's not really a limiting belief. That's just being unaccountable.
Well, I think it's important to ask those questions, like why do you think that?
Exactly.
How do you know that to be true? And then exactly, go deeper and deeper and deeper within those questions. I think that that's what makes you such a great leader. I think that that's probably what makes someone a good partner. Is, when you're feeling angry or sad, instead of, just accepting that feeling, say, what's underneath that?
Ooh, yeah.
Let's go a step further. Why are you upset? What's the feeling that's underneath that anger? Why are you sad? What's the feeling underneath that? I think that you are able to pick and prod with your clients and say, why do you think that way? Why do you feel this way?
You dive a little deeper.
Yeah, which is
I'll tell you another
true alpha.
Big personal one. Another big personal one that I faced through. It was one of the nights where my wife had gone to bed and I was kind of doing my own thing during a trip, and I came to terms and had to face the fact that I was a lazy person, which was ooh, woe to me, because I was struggling with a number of things in my life. And this is when. Before I really started all the businesses I have now, this is when I was just doing personal training and was struggling with clients, struggling to get clients, this and that. And I had to face the fact that what the truth was, I would work really hard for about that much time and I would accomplish a lot and then coast until I was in trouble. And that was the push to make me do something. And I would act and I would accomplish great things in a very short period of time. And I'd be cool and coast. And so for a long time, I thought of myself as a really hard worker because of what I do in the gym, right? Because I train hard and I diet very strict and I put in all that, work, which is a lot. Like I definitely do a lot with that. But I took that from that one area of my life and I applied it to everything, which just wasn't true. You know what I'm saying? So I had to face the fact that like, oh, I am actually a lazy person. That the reason that I'm struggling is because I'm just not doing shit. Like that's it. That I know what I need to do, and I'm just not doing it. Right. And there was no reason. There was no reason. I was just want to do other dumb things instead. And that was it. So like that was a big one. I think I did a video on that yesterday, the day before or something. I posted one about like if you already know the answer, like just do it. You don't need to get too caught up in why. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like I definitely believe that diving into your shit and learning why you do things is important. It can definitely help you out. But if you already know what you need to do, you don't need to get caught up on trying to come up with some profound reason why you do dumb things. Most of the time is just you're not being accountable. You're just fucking off with something else. So if you already know what you need to do, just do that. And then I think getting too caught up in searching for the why is just another distraction of not doing the thing that you need to do. Yeah. And kind of like I was saying in the beginning, where when people want to help other people, I'm not saying don't help other people, but a lot of times people try to help others in a way of avoiding working on themselves. Yeah. And, when we get into, collective consciousness and all of that, right, where we're all, connected, we can get into the science of all that too, for people that don't know. But the fact that we are all connected, right, quantum entanglement, right, what I do affects the whole, right? Yeah. So by me focusing on elevating my consciousness is in turn somehow going to affect you. It's going to affect you. It's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect people that are listening to this. It's going to affect people that don't know any of us even exist, right? They've had that experiment with these monkeys on this island. They taught these monkeys how to use sticks as tools they taught monkeys how to use a spear to fish. And so these monkeys would teach these monkeys and they would teach the other ones, And what happened was when it crossed over the 51 percentile of these monkeys on this island, learning how to use a spear for food, monkeys on the mainland started to learn without being taught, just like that. And they're like, we don't know how this is happening.
It's in the energy.
And right. So what it is that this is where we get into deep stuff. We're getting into quantum physics and quantum entanglement. So for people that don't know, so everything is made of the same molecules, atoms, protons, all this kind of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So when everything's been connected, right? We go back to the Big Bang when everything was together and then boom, spread out. At that one point, all matter everywhere in the universe was at one point one thing. So since that has been, and like this has been proven and known for fucking years. Like this is not new information at all. Like my parents learned this in school. Like it's not new.
It's not like spiritual or woo woo. It's true.
No, like this is like old facts. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? There's proven scientifically over and over again many times. So when we separate particles, what happens to one will simultaneously happen to that other one at the same time with no other influence. So they're not 100% sure how. That's the thing, is they can prove that it works. We don't know exactly how it works. We can just show that it does time and time again in numerous different ways. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing is focusing on yourself, developing yourself in the best way possible, and then living your life as an example, inspiring other people to do the same, and knowing that doing that work on yourself is helping others more than anything you could ever say or do for them.
Yeah, we've said that sort of, but not that beautifully. Like it wasn't that beautifully worded, but I've kind of said before, I think that I don't have a fight to fight. Like there's always something to fight in this world. I think what my job is as part of the collective is to just be. That's it. I'm going to be me. I'm going to be the light. I'm going to be the light that I need. And by doing that, that's what I'm giving back. That's it.
Yeah.
So
there's another quote I heard one time like that. It says that lighthouses don't run around an island looking for boats to save. They just stand there and shine.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are full of quotes.
I know.
I can never remember quotes.
Mr. fucking Brady quote over here.
My dad, he passed away October 1st, 6 years ago, which is tragic, and it fell off a mountain. He was mountain climbing, fell 150 feet.
Sorry.
That happened. Since then, it's been, I've had some major experiences, and much closer to him since he passed than ever when he was alive. So that's a whole nother thing. But that just led me to a lot of the stuff that I do now. And just on that note, before I get into that story, just because it kind of fits with the whole thing, I don't know the answer to this yet. But when I got into psychedelics and started having the changes that I had were exactly the same as things I saw happened in my dad when he was still alive. Wow. So I don't know. I still don't know to this day if he got into psychedelics or not. I have since talked to my mom about it in hopes to try to help her in dealing with his death, because she hasn't. And that's the whole thing. But if he had done that, she definitely didn't know about it. So like I said, I mean, I definitely think that, these things can be accomplished without the use of psychedelics.
Yeah.
But I think they help tremendously. I mean, that's the path that I took. So it's what it is. But anyhow, so my mom had started this new job one time, and she was super nervous about it. And so my dad had written some, quote on the sticky note and put it on her water bottle, just as like a nice gesture to do that more and help her feel better for the day. And she said to him jokingly, well, now you have to do this every day. So he did every single day for 7 years until he died. He would write a different quote on the sticky note, put it on her water bottle. So that was kind of a big inspiration to the shirts and putting the messages on the back and sharing all of that. So that's kind of like in honor to him and stuff like that. So yeah, I think that's a big one there. It was really cool. So that was a big inspiration. So he kind of led me in that sense. But yeah.
That's beautiful.
It's a beautiful, like full
Full
circle.
circle. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I think you have completely changed my idea of what you already said this, a true alpha male. I kind of feel like, am I a true alpha?
And female.
I know.
Absolutely.
Because I had like your description of it, I'm like, hold up, like I am unapologetically who I am. And
well, the way that I put it is, you don't get to decide if you are or not. It's up for other people to decide. So I don't get to be, I can't claim to be true alpha. Because if I say that I am, that means I'm not.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying?
You're right.
So, right. So the way that I put it too. So, and again, talking about the people that want to, tell you they're in charge and impose their will and power on you. The alpha doesn't challenge anybody, right? The alpha just exists. They stand their ground. They own it. They don't do anything. The only people that are challenging are not the alphas, right? So if you're running your mouth, if you're stepping up, if you're trying to prove something, all you're doing is proving that you're not that.
Yeah.
Right? The other thing that's interesting is wolves don't really bark, right? So mine occasionally do, because they are hybrids. They do have dog in them. But wolves don't bark, right? So that's an example I use a lot. What barks a lot? A Chihuahua, right? Which we also have. So we have 2 wolves, a husky, and a Chihuahua. And a cat. Yeah, so that's the big thing. That's why I tell people, is like, if you're yapping, telling people how powerful you and how strong you are, you're just a Chihuahua on the front porch that's very small and has to have a big mouth to try to make themselves sound big. The wolf doesn't say shit. They just stand there and they handle their shit if it comes, and that's it.
I call that small dick energy.
Small dick energy.
Yeah. Well, and you'll see like when we take them, if we take them for walks and another dog comes up that's trying to be whatever, they just stand. They'll lift their head, they'll stand, and they don't do shit. They just stand there. And the other animals are like, you know what? Maybe I don't need to do this.
They're like, yeah, no, never mind. Bye.
Yeah. So that's it. Is yeah. I mean, and you watch nature. You know what I'm saying? Like whether it be the alpha wolf, whether it be an elk or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Whatever the alpha of that pack is, they're not running around starting shit with everyone. They're there living their life. You know what I'm saying? And it's all the betas that want to come and challenge for that alpha spot that come in and challenge. That's it. So that's the big thing is I really want to change the idea of what an alpha is, that it's not imposing will. It's not trying to be powerful. It's not running your mouth, being all that. It's being a leader, and leadership is based in compassion. It's based in cooperation, and that's the big thing too, that, especially with the world today, you know what I'm saying? Like if you get out your phone or you look outside or go anywhere, it's very, very easy to find problems.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy to find disagreements when that's what you're looking for. Right. But look at the majority of human interactions every day. The fact that you can drive down a road at 75 plus miles an hour and have other people come in the opposite way, and the only thing separating you from certain death is a little piece of paint on the ground, and you just trust this person that you don't even know to not cross over and kill you instantly, that's cooperation. Like a lot of it. There's a lot of cooperation in traffic every day, right? You go to the grocery store, people aren't just fighting, like killing each other over food most of the time, unless it was toilet paper a couple years ago. But to my point, like if you really look at everything that's happening in the world, the amount of conflict is like less than I can even make with my, compared to the level of cooperation. But we have this whole idea of conflict, right? Which again comes from Darwin's survival of the fittest, which was like 1840 something, I believe, is when he's like a long fucking time ago. And even said in that, like, this is probably wrong. I don't remember the quote because it's written in language that they talked funny then, and I don't know how to say.
We'll find it
in his
now.
own words, but yeah, he flat out said this is probably wrong, but that's what it is. Is what business is based in conflict. You know what I'm saying? Like even what I'm doing online, we're doing. We had to do a business plan for my supplement company. One of the questions is, what is different about your product than others? I'm like, not a lot, to be honest. You know what I'm saying? Like we do have very good products. I put a lot of time and effort into putting what's good into my stuff. So yeah, absolutely. My products are better than some, there's just different levels of stuff, but there's plenty of other things out there that are the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's plenty of other trainers that are good. There's plenty of other good, the world's abundant. You know what I'm saying? Like there's enough to go around for everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like nobody's stealing your money and your happiness. Your perception that they are is stealing your money and your happiness, which again is belief systems. It all we come back to is belief systems. And when you view the world as this negative, conflicting place full of fighting, that's what you're going to see.
Yeah.
But when you view the world through love and compassion, that's what you're going to see, and that's where, I even had to step away from a lot of friends, in the past year it was just too much negativity, and we would have these group chats and it would just be, did you see what this politician said and this is going on? I'm like, dude, I don't care. Like that. Is there anything you can do about it? No. What the fuck are we talking about?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so they're talking about all these problems. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Like I look out my window and everything's fine. Like I live my life, everything's fine. Even, we're talking about everyone's like, oh, this recession is so bad. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about because I'm making more money I've ever made in my life and working half as much. So I don't know. You know what I'm saying? It's all perspective, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, what you focus on, what you put energy into, you're going to manifest. I tried telling these people that then when things were headed that way towards a recession and everybody's talking about it, I'm like, what do you think's happening when dude, we're losing money. It's going to be a recession. This is coming. When that's what you're focused on, what the fuck do you think is going to happen? Like,
That's the
y'all
law
just
of
manifested
attraction.
that shit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the law of attraction.
Yeah, exactly. Terrence McKenna said it the best. He said, worrying is praying to the devil.
Ooh.
I love Terrence McKenna.
Yeah. It's putting your energy into the thing that you want least.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So why are you focusing on that?
Put your energy into something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that's it. That is my biggest thing personally, is controlling where my attention goes. You know, that's on one of my other shirts, is you become the master of your life when you learn to control where your energy goes, value what you give your time and focus to.
Absolutely.
Right. And that's just it, yeah, there's definitely plenty of stuff going on in the world that's not great. Mm-hmm. That sucks. Unfortunately, most people don't give a shit about my opinion. Most of the people that are in control of those things, they don't care about what I have to say. But at the same time, most of those things don't really have any effect on me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the biggest thing, is focus on the things that you can control. And if you can't, let it go. You know, what happens from that, what happens, but deal with that then. Is when people get so concerned about what they think is going to happen, and that it's all just taking you out of the here and now.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd heard another way is sort of on the same subject, but a little bit differently, in human conflict, right? This particular example was used in like relationship conflict, when, you know, the significant others start to fight and you start yelling. What I heard about that, and it makes absolute sense to me, is your souls are distancing. When you're falling out of alignment, your souls are getting farther apart. So you become yelling because you're so far away from each other that you're having to speak louder, right? When you can come back into alignment. And that's the thing. Like, I've noticed the opposite of that too with my wife. When we'll be having like a more intimate conversation, I'll be like, why am I whispering to you right now? You know what I'm saying? And it's because we're close. So that's a big thing too. So, and those types of things, that's where, you know, the awareness comes into recognizing those behaviors. And I've, you know, absolutely recognized the other as well when we have, because we're definitely not perfect. You know, we have arguments as well. But we definitely recognize that when things start to get, you know, aligned. But we are very good now about coming back in, you know, bringing it back in, and that's the really good thing that we have in our relationship, is we're both very good at keeping each other accountable, right? And if something's getting out of a line, then saying, hey, you're doing this, or hey, you're projecting, or whatever, you know. So it helps tremendously, and it's the matter of just not having judgment on yourself. So like, if I'm being dumb and saying some stupid shit, and she tells me, the initial reaction is I feel stupid for doing it, right? But instead of getting mad because I'm accountable, I'm just like, okay. So just laugh about it, you know. That it makes me go, son of a bitch, you got me.
Yeah.
You know. So that's the thing, is I take it as getting pranked, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? When I lose my center, right? If I get, you know, worked up about something, even outside the relationship. Like, there was last week, I got super stressed out about something and was all up in my head and kind of freaking out about it. And she's just like, what are you doing? I was like, okay, shit, you know. So that I feel, because I mean, the truth is, like, now that stuff doesn't really happen to me very often. It's just the truth. But I put a lot of work into getting to that point.
Yeah.
But I still do get angry. I still do get stressed.
Sure.
Well, we're human.
Those things still happen. Of course they do. But now when it happens, as soon as I become aware, it makes me laugh, you know, because that's what I've connected for me, like Ashton Kutcher on Punk'd. I just, you got me.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah.
It's just that it sounds funny, but because it's funny, that's what just dissipates those negative emotions immediately. You know what I'm saying? because I could be like, son of a bitch, I did it again. I can't do this. I'm so stupid. I can't control it. No, dude, like, yeah, you got tricked. You got you this time.
Yeah.
So you let it go.
It'll get you again.
And 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
And like in the beginning, this is what I tell people too, because I really, really, really try hard to remember how things started, because that's a big thing that I've seen in stuff that I didn't know that I've been trying to learn, particularly with this business stuff, as I've been doing all these different things. I don't know a shit about business. I'm learning now. You know what I'm saying?
Fly the
I've
plane
known
as you
fitness,
go.
I've known supplements. Right. You know, so those things I would get stressed about, but then I realized that like, that's not helping. That's not doing anything. You know what I'm saying? So it brings that center back. So I try to remember where it came from. So for me in the beginning, it would be, something would happen and I would react. And then 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe an hour or so later, I'd be like, shit, I did it again. You know? And then it just becomes owning that and being okay with it. Not, I'm a failure, I'm this or that. Like, no, like, but you know, when I recognize, like, that's a win because I caught it. Right. It was after the fact, but I caught it. And you start doing that more and more. And what happens is the time between the event and the awareness starts getting smaller and smaller until eventually it gets to the same point, right? So you realize it in the moment, right? And then eventually you cross that threshold to where you start to see the things coming, right? You start to see where an event is happening that would normally be a trigger. And that's the true transformation, is in that moment where you get to choose to act differently. And that's the big thing that I really try to stress on is, again, it was another quote I heard somewhere that I don't remember how to repeat it, so I'm going to say it my own way. They said the real transformation doesn't happen on a yoga mat or whatever else. It happens being in the moment of conflict and choosing a different action, you know? And that's the biggest thing, is whether it be through psychedelics, whether it be through therapy or the two together or whatever the case may be, you're not changing anything then, right? You're becoming aware of some things, but the change happens the next time that there's a problem. So really you can't do anything about it until there's a problem.
Right.
You know? And it's when that problem happens, now you have the opportunity to make a different choice. And when you make that different choice, that changes the brain chemistry. And then from there, it becomes different next time. It becomes different next time. And then that becomes a habit. That's how you rewire the brain.
Yes, that was needed for today. I have therapy every time we do an episode with whoever is speaking. I'm like, oh shit, how did they know? So I want you to let our listeners know. I mean, we could talk to you for like 5 more hours,
but go all day.
Yeah. Let our listeners know. Well, we can do it again. We'll do it again sometime. How to find you on Instagram, how to find you through your website, give them a place to go. And we'll obviously put all that stuff on our episode. But let us know.
Yeah. So Instagram is Lifts with Wolves, lifts, with, wolves, online, my app is truealphapt.com. The clothing is truealphaclothing.com, and the supplements are truealphasupplements.com. So everything's True Alpha across the brand, and they pretty much all connect to each other. So if you go to one, you'll find the other. But yeah, absolutely. You know, follow me on Instagram. Questions, you know, if people want to work through stuff, I absolutely love that. Right. So I mean, that was a big thing too for me, is going through this process of, you know, transformation with psychedelics and all of that. I kind of, you know, realized that the mind stuff and the healing stuff, that's what I'm really about here. That's what's really means the most to me. And really the fitness and all that just came from enjoying it, right? It came from, like, I got into working out from hockey. I liked the way my body responded. I thought that was pretty cool. I want to do it. So I want a job in doing what I like. I did that. I turned myself into a scary guy. And so it is what it is. So I've since learned that what I am, what I look like, what I do through fitness is just my vehicle to sharing what I really want to share, which is, the message of love, compassion, caring, helping each other grow, and spreading positivity. So that's the big thing, is like, I love talking to people. I do just cut straight to the shit. So, like I had a person messaging me the other day, like, how do I quit smoking? I was like, well, you realize that it's a choice, and who controls your choices? You or somebody else? If you don't control your choices, who does?
Yeah.
So that's the thing, is like, a lot of people that want to be free, like, yeah, I'm a free person. Are you? Or are you controlled by, because you say that you're free, but as soon as somebody comments something you don't like on Facebook, you gotta, I posted a video with some Joe Biden audio of saying God knows what, and so many people got real mad. Like, I'm not gonna watch if you have that guy talking. I'm like, it was funny. Chill out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's so wild how ready people are to fight. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing, is for people that have questions, that want to work through stuff, they want, advice or help in the healing process, absolutely message me. I love talking to people, but understand that I'm not gonna, like,
sugarcoat it
around the
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I'm not rude either. I'm not an asshole about it either. Definitely don't believe in that. But I'm just like,
Transparent.
cut the bullshit. Yeah, we can go through all these methods, and that's what I tell them. Is I just tell them the truth. It comes down to a choice, and anything else that I could tell you is going to be some sort of bullshit distraction from that real truth. You know what I'm saying? So we can talk all the talk and all this, bullshit, but one, I don't have time for that, nor do I want to, and it's not doing anybody a service to just kind of, well, you could do this, and then, remember this or remember that. No, just realize it's a choice. You are the one making those choices. Nobody else is controlling your thoughts other than you. And if you're not, then who is? So when you recognize that, it brings you back.
You're like a walking, talking psychedelic. Because it's like, it's
not
what you want, it's what you need.
Exactly.
I'm going to show you what you need.
Yeah. And again, Ram Dass is one of my favorites of all time. I come back to him a lot. But he had the one saying, we're all just walking each other home,
Oh,
and,
I like that.
And that's the big thing, is I live my life by, is like I said, I don't know your life. I don't know your life. I don't know the lives of everybody listening. I only know what I know. I only know what I've experienced. And so I just share my experience. And if that lands with somebody, great. If it doesn't, then I'm not the one that they needed to hear it from.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He had another one that he started this talk one time. So everybody claps, and it gets quiet, and he goes, so what is it you want me to say? And everybody kind of laughs, because they're, well, we came here for you to talk, not the other way. And so he kind of lets people wonder for a second, and he goes on, he goes, well, I've been doing these talks for quite a while now, and what I've learned is what you want me to say is something that you already know. And I know that because I can say something that's eminently profound, and I'll look out in the audience, and you'll nod. And if you nod, that means you know. And if you know, then why do you have to pay $20 to hear me say it? So that's where, so what it is it's truth. It's speaking truth.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing for me, that I think why I like these kind of conversations better than just sitting and talking to my phone to make a video, is because I'm, to be honest, not the most wise person. Like, I don't have just tons of knowledge just all crammed in there. I just have a way of connecting to that truth. So things happen, and then most of the time that I say shit, I'm like, I'm just as surprised as everybody else. I'll say something, I'm like, that was really good. I need to remember that.
We do that.
So that's the honest truth, is like, most of the time I'll be talking with a client and they'll have some problem, and I'll say something, I'm like, I need to write that down so I can make a video about it, because I'm not going to remember, because it's not coming from me. You know what I'm saying? It's that truth that's within all of us.
Coming from within.
Yeah. And so that's the biggest thing, is us having the confidence and courage to let that out, but being humble enough to not take that in, you know, that's me, you know what I'm saying? It's just sharing truth. And that's where we're all just walking each other home really means a lot to me, because it's understanding that you're not, I'm not, we're not any better or different or highly enlightened than anybody else. It's just being a conduit for that energy and that truth to flow through. So the more that you try to like hold on to it and make it yours, you're gonna lose it, right? It's a way of like Alan Watts, who says, you know, if you breathe in and you hold it, you lose your breath, right? But you let it out, and then it comes back, right? That's the only way.
Yeah.
You know, so that's you know, it's teaching about attachment. The more you hold on to something, you can't. You know, it's all about letting go and let flow, as they say.
Yes.
Like that.
Thank you. That was like beautiful.
Yeah.
And
no, thank you.
All right, so we will do this again, and for our listeners, this is what you're getting. Like you said earlier, like they asked you what's different about your supplements, and I'm immediately like, you're different.
Right.
Like they're getting you.
That's exactly what it is. So that's the thing with the whole point, right? With the True Alpha thing, is it's a movement, not like it's a brand, but it's a movement. That's the biggest thing. Is it's about what that stands for, right? So for two reasons. One, it's about spreading positivity. Yeah. So like the clothes, that was the foundation of it. And I'm going to tell you just a funny story real quick. I don't want to go over, but this is a really funny story about how this happened. So back up like a year ago, 2 years ago, when I was first trying to do the online stuff, I didn't have my own brand. I didn't have any of that. I was just trying to be a fitness influencer type of guy. So I had the wolves. So I was looking for other companies that I could sign with that would be applicable to my image. So I got involved with a supplement company called Viking Supplements because of the beard. And I'd messaged this clothing company called Alpha Fitnesswear, again, with the wolves and that whole image. So I signed on with them and everything, and they accepted me. And they said, we need you to order $360 of clothes today. I was like, I don't have that money right now. I was broke then. This is back in 2020, I was like, sorry, I can't. And then they messaged me 3 days in a row. This is your last chance. I'm like, this is the third last chance you've given me. So clearly you just want your money. Yeah. So that's where I was like, this is bullshit. I was like, this isn't alpha. I'm like, I'm going to start a company that's going to be True Alpha. So that's where, that was what clicked at first. And then that sparked the whole idea of what it's all about, right? About, I didn't want to just have that. I wanted to be what it's about. So it's about putting the messages on the back of the shirt. So that's, the clothing company came at the time. Gym was PQ training. Right there, there's a huge view. It's very cool. And then my dad's, he was a doctor. His family practice was Peakview Family Practice, right? So the name Peakview Training Ground was kind of like an homage to my dad. And then when we decided to do the online stuff, I didn't want something that was, specific to Colorado. I wanted to make it more universal. So, and that was also, I had to face attachment because I had to let go of the name Peakview, which was for my dad, which I had a little bit of attachment to because I was trying to honor him, and to realize that didn't matter. Like, he's gone either which way. You know what I'm saying? That having that name doesn't do anything. It's just attachment here. So I let that go, rebranded to True Alpha, and that's what it's been about ever since. So it's about spreading that positivity and that. So what it is about that's the difference, is you're making a difference by spreading the message, but then it's at the same time giving you a standard to live up to yourself. You know what I'm saying? Because you can't wear these shirts with these positive messages on the back and then live your life as an asshole. That's not okay.
Right.
So it's just a constant reminder of be the best version of yourself. Like I said, I have the training programs to help people, physically be the best they can be, whatever their goal is. Right. Supplements to help with that as well, and all of it. And then the clothing to spread the message and then live up to that yourself.
Yeah, we're going to be buying that So for sure, all of our listeners, follow this guy, Ben. He's awesome.
Yeah,
he posts really good reels.
I can't wait to
his wolves are in there, which I know we love. And we will hear from you guys on the other side. See you on the other side.